Oh, we're live. All right. Excellent. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second lug for, well, technically it's the first lug because we didn't do the first one. That was my fault. I had no internet that day. So we had to skip it. So technically it's the first and also the second lug. It's a little bit like Schrodinger's lug, if you will. Um, anyways, welcome to the Linux user group for February. It's hard to believe that February is like literally over already. So time is a flying. We have an awesome topic tonight. It is Linux distros that shouldn't exist. So I have a feeling that everyone's going to say Debian, right? Like that's the answer is Debian. Okay, sorry, I had to poke Drew. I had to poke Drew there for a minute. Anyway, so what I imagine us to do here is to just open the floor up for answers, but I don't want just the answer. I want to know why you believe what you believe. So I'm sure there's going to be some trolling going on, which is fine, but I want actual reasons. So who wants to go first with their first answer? Anybody? All right, fine. I will go first. I think that any Arch-based distribution shouldn't exist. Now, previously I would have said fine, but nowadays I don't think any of them really have all that much of a purpose. Now, some people can say, well, it uses a special kernel and they have all this extra software. Nothing you can't do with Arch because it's just Arch underneath the thing, and most of them just manage to F Arch up. So that's my answer. I think any Arch-based distro. I know it's an umbrella of a whole bunch of distros, but nobody else raised their hand, so I decided I'd go first. Anybody else want to go with one Arch Penguin? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to second your idealism here, but I'm going to be a little more specific and say
Thank you.
Manjaro. Um, yeah, nothing but bad experiences. I mean, even Arch Junior tried to use it and it broke it within a day. Just install Arch. At this point, there's no reason to gate. It's so easy now that there's just no reason to just install Arch. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of reasons other than that. They're expiring certificates, and guy extorts money and gets himself a laptop, and I mean, it breaks a lot. That's been my experience, and like I said, just install Arch.
Well, and then Manjaro's initial purpose was to make Arch easier to install. Now Arch is easy to install. I mean, and their whole well, we hold the Arch repositories back for a couple weeks. So oh, you can do the exact same thing by just not doing an update for a couple weeks on Arch. So, War Thunder, go ahead.
Mine's going to be a little more generic, but it's kind of I've been spending a lot of time in the RHEL based world and whatnot, and to be honest, a lot of Fedora based distros or distros that fork off of Fedora and do stuff, I just don't see a lot of point in it. I know Fedora has its own learning curve and whatnot with media codecs and a bunch of other silly things, but every Fedora based distro I've ever used, you should just go use the main one. I've either had horrible problems or certain ones won't even boot. Just, I think you're better off just going to Fedora if you want to use Fedora.
There are Fedora-based distros that aren't made by Fedora.
I'm
There
using one.
actually are.
What one, Ryan? Go ahead.
Ultramarine. I was just too lazy to search up the NVIDIA drivers the one day, so I just went with it.
Nobara is another one that's a
Oh,
Fedora
yeah,
based. Even though
yeah.
Glorious Eggroll does do a very good job with it, a lot of what he does you can just do in Fedora. Like, sure, it's nice that it's prepackaged, but
Yeah, Fedora's one that doesn't feel like it needs a bunch of forks, but also I know a lot of people like Fedora and also want to take it at least a step further away from Red Hat, so I can see the interest in having one. But yeah, uh, anyone else have one? Or are we gonna move on to another topic already? D Dubs, go ahead.
I was just on the Fedora thing. I mean, the only good reason to have another spin is to potentially, in a I have to say, in a fantasy world, that they would be a longer support for it, because that's its real downside to me. Fedora, every 6 months or so, you're looking at having to upgrade. which doesn't always go well. When you go to 40 to 41, or especially on some of the earlier ones, it was horrible. And a lot of people I know just had to reload. So that's all. I mean, there are some things that are nice about some of these specialties. Arco, for example, for me is a very good fork of Arch, not just because of their installer, um, but it's what you like.
Yeah. Fraggle? Go ahead.
Am I good? You
Yep.
can hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Anything that's like a fourth fork of the original distribution, like say Peppermint OS. Like Peppermint is based off of Lubuntu, which is based off Ubuntu, which is based off of Debian. So why? Like why? Why does it have to exist? It doesn't. There's no reason for it at all. When you're getting like that far down the road, I can't get behind it. I don't understand it. I just don't. So yeah, there's no reason for it.
Can we take it like a step up a little bit and say third generation forks? Because then we could include Linux Mint in the equation.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey,
I mean,
how's it going, Matt?
How you doing, War Thunder? But I mean, it's the concept kind of applies to Linux Mint. It's very much generation, but they have the perfect solution. LMD exists. Then it's only second generation. It's there. Darcy, go ahead.
Hello. I was a bit nervous. Like I can turn on my webcam. I didn't know, but um, I I used to use Fedora, and then there was a point where my packages got softlocked, and I just couldn't update, and that took so long to fix. It just put me off Fedora, and like I've used Arch in the past, but the problem I had is like recently I've been trying to make packages, and I read through package builds on Arch, and I find some really ugly stuff in there. Like pretty much every package build I come across has this link to systemd. And I like using Void Linux, and it's really hard to like. I don't know. I just wish there wasn't that mentality that um, systemd is the default, and especially like packages that are designed like some packages they come from a package build from Arch that gets converted into an app image, and then trying to undo that is like double the work. And like I feel like it's hard to say whether this is a distro problem, but it's been something on my mind. So
Well, it's definitely an Arch problem. The way the AUR specifically works is, I mean, it's impressive in a way that it allows so many more people to create packages, right? Because it's fairly easy, but it also leaves a lot to interpretation. I'd say so. Also, welcome. You don't have to be nervous. None of us here
Thank you.
bite. At least.
Is it okay if I turn on my webcam? I was just a bit
Yeah.
nervous.
Do
Yeah.
whatever you like.
Oh.
Yeah. Nate, you had your hand up next. Go ahead.
So in defense of War Thunder and myself, anything that has OpenSUSE, period, because it's just a fork of SUSE. So
Hey, you guys remember that guy we used to talk to all the time? His name was Nate. Whatever happened to that guy? Drew, go ahead.
So I'm gonna pile on and really stir the pot by just saying anything other than Debian is used. No, I'm just kidding. but I will pile on the Manjaro train a little bit and just say, my God, my God, what are you guys doing over there? And there are so many bad spins within the Manjaro kind of like umbrella. The worst of which may be Maybox. Anybody ever try Maybox? Basically, it is an open box Manjaro, which is wretched, absolutely horrible. And by the way, if you are going to look for the low-hanging fruit that is the spins from Debian, obviously there's going to be the Hannah Montana reference, but my personal favorite is Bebian Linux, which is the Justin Bieber Linux that but based on Debian.
That actually exists, or did you just make that up?
It exists.
It did.
It's
It
a real
totally
thing.
did.
What is wrong? What is wrong? I hate humans. When is this cyborg feature happening? Because this is stupid. It's gone too far.
We talked about AI a little bit, Matt. So we're not that far. We're not that far from it.
The problem is AI would just do the same shit we do, just quicker. So, War Thunder, go ahead.
And I'm going to preface mine with RHEL clones, not necessarily RHEL derivatives. I'm talking like Rocky Linux and Alma Linux. I don't understand the value they provide per se, other than because if you go to RHEL themselves, they'll give you 20 licenses for free for an individual to just do whatever you want with it. If you want to run your home lab off of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, you can just do that. I don't entirely understand the point of just purely cloning a distro and not changing anything about it, rebranding it, and slapping it on the market and calling it your own.
It's literally about money, dude. It's literally about money. Basically, what people don't want to have to pay for RHEL, and you have to pay for RHEL now. You could, if you want to use it, you pretty much had to pay for the support. But you can use Alma or Rocky without paying for the support and still have access to the RHEL repositories. That's what it's all about. So it's literally about the coin, and it's also I do believe that they were more trying to clone CentOS than RHEL itself, because CentOS became basically rolling release, and now and this allows them to be more stable and downstream or whatever. Never used them, so I can't tell you for sure. Nate, go ahead.
I'm going to say this. I'm just going to leave it as it is. Any distro that is literally just a rice of something else, but then wants to put it behind a paywall.
We don't know who you're talking about. D-Dubs, go
Shots
ahead.
fired. Shots fired.
What's wrong with Maybox? What are you talking about, Drew? You are obviously under the influence of something. Maybox is
Clearly,
actually
you
not
have
that
never run Maybox before, because you would be agreeing with me in a
No, I
wholehearted
have.
fashion.
I did for a while.
Then you're just completely wrong.
Sorry, but not. Anyway, the thing on the rail too, by the way, is it is about money, but it's also if you have a rail contract and you bundle like another repository or you modify it, you lose your support. Anyway, they're horrible in that regard. Oracle is very similar. Oracle's Linux, so that's where the Rocky and the Almas and stuff come from. That you can get that same code that's stable and so forth, but then you could still customize it and do what you want with it.
Well, the real question I've always had, and this is just because I edit videos, and Nate knows this. The officially supported distro for DaVinci Resolve is CentOS, and I would like to address every Linux user ever. Are there any actual desktop users of CentOS out there? Like anybody? Like it's just a weird. Like I understand that on servers, like it makes 100% sense to me, but on a desktop, weird. Like it's why they chose that. I don't know. Tyler, go ahead.
So I don't think anyone said it, but distributions like Ubuntu, and especially Ubuntu, no one's brought this up. If your main marketing thing is like it's Windows, but it's Linux, that's bad. Like, no, especially like Ubuntu in particular. Like, not only was it insecure, it's charging money for stuff, like all around, just no. But anything like it, like Linux Mint gets it right when it comes to the idea of like, let's support Windows users by the appearance of the distro without trying to be Windows. Like, it's not Windows. Don't try to sell it as Windows. It'll never be, and it shouldn't be. It should be better. That's my 2 cents.
Do you think that there's a place for Windows clones at all? that aren't scams. Like,
No, and here's why. There's definitely a place for Windows themes. If you want to install a theme that makes your system look like Windows 7 for some weird reason, do it. But not for like a distro shouldn't. Your distro that shouldn't be a focus of the maintainers of your system. Like, I mean, it just shouldn't be.
I can see the rationale. Like, you want people to switch to Linux, therefore you want it to look as close to Windows as possible because it eases the burden. But once you get past installing Linux, I mean, it feels like setting everything up exactly the same as Windows. It reduces your interest in learning what Linux is all about, and therefore will handicap you in the future when, eventually your Linux distro has to update, or, someone pushes a bad Mesa package, because that always happens. What do you do then? I mean, of course, if you're using Linux like Windows, you just do what you do on Windows. You nuke and pave, because nobody solves problems on Windows. They just overwrite everything and go to the next one. Nerdgasm, go ahead.
Okay, so I would also say Zorin does a pretty good job at helping out people transitioning from Windows. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but also to kind of counter some what you said of like, there are some people that don't like that their position in life is not to learn the computer things or to learn something new with that and to get into that. They just need to do some basic tasks and get the basic tasks done. And I'm not a huge fan of Zorin or anything, but I will say that like in that case, Zorin does offer support as well for some of those users. You have to pay for it, blah blah blah, but there is a place for that. And as for straight up Windows clones that are not a scam, I would say there is a small place for that, but yes, there is a place, and that would be filling out older systems that were used like in embedded environments and various stuff like that, that are using older software or whatever, doesn't work on modern Windows, may need some special setup to be done to be used in Linux. A Linux distro that is cloning Windows for an older type of environment, absolutely, there's a real use case there. It's not normal users, it is a business case, but still, that is a real use case that does matter.
Nate?
I will say, working in IT, I'm just going to straight up tell you that if a PC gets old enough to where Windows doesn't support it, they get rid of it and buy something else that supports that Windows. So just I don't see the point of having a Linux distro that supposedly is to function like Windows at all.
Manufacturing environments and stuff like that.
But but that would be a very unique, specific version of Windows. It wouldn't actually be full Windows.
I mean, a lot of times, like I've seen like just running Windows XP and stuff, and a lot of those old environments still even to this day, because they're not connected to internet and this and that, and they could just still run Windows, or they could switch over to this other thing. I don't know. I'm just saying it's not a completely dead use case.
I think you're positing a use case that just doesn't happen, because, like Nate said, when hardware goes, out of date or whatever, it just they replace it. They don't. The vast majority of people, whether even if it's just a kiosk or whatever the hell, kiosk, Matt can't talk. But even if it's just one of these things that it's a terminal to something else, they're not just going to put Linux on there, because it entails someone learning how to use Linux, maintaining it, writing the software for it. They're not going to do that. They're just going to put Windows on it. So I think that in that case, I don't know. Drew, go ahead.
Dude, I totally raised my hand by accident. Sorry. Okay. I mean, I can throw in. By the way, there's 2 hip dads. Wow. Okay.
What's better than 1 hip dad? 2.
Let me kick one out. There we go.
He kicked the
There we go.
the wrong one out. That'd be funny as hell.
I was gonna say, well, Red Star OS is something that I don't know that should have ever been created. But seriously though, if we were gonna look at something, I am not a fan of elementary OS. I'm sure there are people here that are much more, and doesn't mean that it's necessarily completely useless, because it did bring Pantheon. But I guess the debate would be, is Pantheon even a useless desktop environment? I would say yes. I'm just not a fan. It looks exactly like Chrome OS to me, and maybe that's a good thing for some people, but definitely not a fan.
I would agree. I think that it should definitely be just a desktop environment. Like, anybody user who wants to use it, and because they don't bring. See, when you're talking about like an Ubuntu derivative, you have to have a reason for making a derivative. So like Mint, their qualm is they don't want to use all the Ubuntu stuff, but they still like the Ubuntu kernel. That seems to be their thing, right? So they want to do everything on their own, but we're too lazy to make their own distro. A fair game, I suppose. Something like Pop OS. Pop OS has taken Ubuntu and done a whole bunch of stuff for hardware compatibility, made it a hell of a lot easier to use NVIDIA. You know, obviously before they started working on Cosmic, they made GNOME usable. So they had a reason for doing what they were doing on top of just being a distro. They could have just done Cosmic if they wanted to, but they wanted to do all this other stuff as well. Some distros though just take the thing and really shouldn't exist because they're not doing anything extra to the distro part of it. They're just making a desktop environment or ricing, like Nate said earlier. I think that one of the things that we should have kind of qualified earlier is that we're not poo-pooing people who make their own distros, like for themselves. Like, I think that's a fantastic learning experience, go make your own distro or whatever. It's people who think that they want to make like the next Linux Mint, and all they're doing is nothing, basically. So, Tyler, you're next.
So, I was going to respond to the Red Star OS comment first, and then I'll say what I have to say about Pantheon. One, I think there is a total use case for that. Government OSs are great. If a government wants to like be more secure and use Linux to do it, use their own custom kernel, like faff about with it, cool, great, awesome. And also it means we have something really interesting to play with and look at like how bad it is. That's fun. Like that's great. And then about Pantheon, I understand it not being just a regular desktop environment. The whole goal with elementary OS is to make something that's more like Apple's entire ecosystem, where everything blends together seamlessly and it all looks the same. And you kind of destroy that if you're just going to have some of the desktop aspects and then not it like completely unified with everything else. But at the end of the day, I think you should just be able to install it as a regular desktop environment and do whatever you want with it. Like, it really doesn't matter. It shouldn't. But
I think Deepin falls into that category as well. I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay, Nate, go ahead. You're still muted, bud.
Can I just throw in Kali Linux? Just because people that run it, they think they're hackers. I'm like, that's not how that works.
Okay, so all right, it's like all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs kind of thing. Just because you use Kali Linux does not make you a hacker, but hackers do use Kali Linux.
Yeah,
so
they can, and there's some good tools on it, but it doesn't make you a hacker. Like, so many people are like, I use Kali Linux. I'm like, that doesn't make you a hacker, buddy. I'm sorry. Just because you DDoS somebody's not even a hack.
Just because you have C matrix running in the background doesn't make you a hacker. Sorry, DT. Just say, Cody, go ahead.
Yeah, I love that with the my response to them is usually, yeah, well, I use Black Arch. Boom. destroyed. But no, I'd say there is merit to government-run distributions for government purposes and whatnot. Like absolutely, like Red Star is the one to crap on, obviously, deservedly so. But just in general, the concept of government-run and maintained distros for government use, that absolutely makes sense. I would say that yeah, there's a lot of offshoot ones of various things that I don't think need to exist. Like there's a bunch of different Arch derivatives that aren't holding packages back and are just giving an installer. And it's like I'm not really sure what the advantages of. Like I played around with Blue Star before, and I was just like, okay, what's the advantage of this really over Endeavor? Or a few other things like that. And I just wish more of these different projects would combine together, because they're doing effectively the same things, and just give some options in the installer for some of those different layouts or some of those different customizations. It's like, yeah. One I used to use that I don't see a purpose for anymore, Watt OS. I used Watt OS for back in like the early 2010 2011 era, when it was a Ubuntu derivative that actually had LXDE that functioned unlike Lubuntu at that time. But now it's just a Debian based open box that's like, oh, trying to be as energy efficient as possible, except for there is plenty of other Debian derivatives that actually do a better job at that. Like, why is WattOS still a thing at this point? I don't know, but yeah, there's a lot of those.
So with the Arch thing, I mean, I know I said that way at the beginning was that Arch-based distros, but I think that one of the things that has to be taken into account when it comes to Arch is that not everyone wants to install it from a terminal, even if it isn't easy to install now. So I'm just trying to keep my mind open just a little bit, because I mean somebody would want to use Arch but install it with like Calamares, and that was the original premise behind like Antergos, right? Not Manjaro, but like Antergos. That was just Arch but with a Calamares installer.
Yeah, and like that can make sense. But like there's a number of those that are just that with like a couple different customization changes. And it's like, cool, Arch with an installer and with some packages out of the gate. That makes sense. But there is a bunch of different ones of those, and it's like really almost all these could be combined into just options in that installer. Do you want which one do you want? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a Manjaro user. I'm the.
You apparently
Jeez, I'm
weren't
sorry.
You apparently weren't
I'm
around
sorry
for
for
our
your
whole Manjaro sucks conversation.
No, I missed that in the beginning. I was a little late getting in because of work and stuff. But I'm happy to talk about the reasons why I use Manjaro in a different time. This isn't the one for that, but happy to do that anytime.
Fraggle, go ahead.
I just want to start by saying I disagree with you, Nate. I think Kali Linux does have its uses and its purpose, but because of the way that it's used, it is on the cusp of becoming a meme distro, or in some instances, it is a meme distro when it comes to hackers and hacking. But it is a really good distro that packages just about any and every tool you could ever desire to use for those purposes. But yeah, you can get those tools on pretty much any distro anyway. So, but there are some distros, like, just to flip the script a little bit, that I think should exist as opposed to not exist, like LFS. I think everybody at least once should try to build LFS just to get a deeper understanding of Linux as a whole. There are some distros that are dead that I wish hadn't died, like Dynabolic. Dynabolic was great for like AV type of stuff, video, audio production, graphics, publishing, everything. It was a great distribution for all of those things, all rolled into one. Yeah, there's some distros that really shouldn't exist, and there's some that still, I feel like, kind of should.
I have a question for you, Fraggle, about that. Like, how does that compare with like current day AV Linux or something like that? because there are other options.
Yeah, I mean, AV Linux is good and everything like that, but I think Dynabolic, had it kept going down the path it was going, it would have support for like DaVinci Resolve, possibly even like a more popular mainstream DAW like FL Studio or Ableton, things like that. I think it would be more like proprietary or corporate backed or supported, and a lot more robust than what it was. Because that seemed like the direction that they were heading, but then they just kind of lost traction, I guess. I don't know.
So that whole idea of talking about Linux distros we wish would exist, probably a good topic for a whole lug. But and if you guys remind me, I want to talk about one later. But just on that whole Kali thing, I've always been under the impress. I don't know if it's just something that I made up in my head or if I heard it from someplace, but they always told me that, and I've got to remember, I've never tried Kali Linux, but they always, the in the zeitgeist or whatever, is that Kali Linux is hard to install. Is that true? Because it feels like it's just based on Debian, right? So it's just a Debian installer of some sort. Anybody actually have anybody here a hacker and can tell us how you install Kali Linux? I'd love to know. Nate, go ahead. I don't. You don't have to answer the question, but go ahead and tell me what you were gonna say.
No, I was actually going to mention that if you want some proprietary software for video editing stuff, Ubuntu Studio does exist, and they're probably the ones that things will go to because it's Ubuntu. But I was going to also mention too that I don't see the point of any distros that are based off of Slackware. If you're going to run Slackware, just run Slackware.
Are there distros based on Slackware?
Yeah, there's a
Unraid.
couple. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. I have learned something new today. Okay. I had no clue that was a thing. Gnome, go ahead.
Well, to answer your question, when you're going to install Kali, it's in a VM. And secondly, society, we all kind of aim. Kali gets the shit into the stick, pardon my language, but for being the hacker distro. But they kind of done it to themselves back in 2017 by doing the KLCP. It's a hacker certification sponsored by Kali. They kind of put themselves in that boat.
Yeah, there was that whole thing like the Scotland Yard or London Police or whatever a few years ago put out flyers that said signs that your child is a hacker, and one of them was he uses Kali Linux. So it's definitely become a stereotype of some kind. So Fraggle brought up the whole Linux distro things that we thought should exist, and just something that flew into my mind is I would love a like a Debian based distribution that did Btrfs well out of the box, like through the installer. I think that'd be awesome. Like it not only did it set up Btrfs for you, but it would allow you to have the appropriate sub volumes and stuff like that without having to go do all the nonsense that Drew has to do every time he wants to set up Btrfs properly. I would love that, and it just does not exist. Like if you want to use Btrfs on Debian or Ubuntu or any of those base distros, you have to jump through serious hoops if you want to use the appropriate. If you want to use anything other than the at rootfs or whatever the default subvolume is for Btrfs, you have to do all this stuff. And I would just love to see more distros, Debian based or not, that took Btrfs seriously. Because like right now, the only ones that do are Fedora, and they use a really weird subvolume setup, and OpenSUSE. And they're like, those are the only ones. And that depresses me because I think Btrfs is fantastic. One thing that did surprise me, and George Castro in one of his videos said this, and I had no clue it was true. Like Red Hat RHEL doesn't use Btrfs. I thought that they did because I thought that was the whole point of Fedora using it, was that RHEL used Btrfs, but they don't. They use XFS. So apparently, like just the Btrfs is very, very niche, but I would love a distro that just did Btrfs fantastically well that wasn't OpenSUSE. Drew, go ahead.
No, the question to me is, because I'm not disagreeing with you, Matt. I'm just trying to gauge the level of, well, the number of people rather, or the popularity of people using ButterFS for whether it be time shift or snapper or what have you. So there's 13 people in this users group, and there's 90 people in the chat on YouTube right now. And I'm just kind of curious if you could just, say I use ButterFS, and then, or, I could probably set up a poll within this, but because that would just mean to me, like, yeah, I'll just create my own distro. with
Hey,
Debian
Drew
that
OS, the
that does
ButterFS distro. Well,
ButterFS
I
set up
think
for.
it's a chicken and egg problem though, Drew, because you can't. There's no good distro out there that uses ButterFS, out of the box, really, like a mainstream distro, and people just don't know that it is even an option. So I think an issue there. That's the reason why so many people probably don't use it. Linux Mint could corner the market, War Thunder. They already use time shift. They developed the damn thing, or they develop it now. They could just switch to ButterFS. Nobody would even know the difference. Like it would just work. It'd be fantastic. Nerdgasm, go ahead.
Mainly, yeah, I'm a ButterFS user. That's the thing. Have been for quite a while, on and off. I mean, I was using it when it was still buggy as all hell back in the 2010, 2011 era, but now it's been working great for the last couple of years for me. No probs at all. Multiple machines, multiple distros is good. I will say on the Kali thing, yeah, you're typically not installing Kali. You're typically live booting it from a flash drive, or you're using it in a virtual machine, in which case you would either still live boot or just you could install it. And that's true for any of the hacking distros, typically, whether it's Kali, Parrot, or Black Arch. But out of all those, like, why are you using all those when Black Arch has all the same tools and more? If you're going to use a boot from a flash drive hacking distro, why not use the one that has the most of the tools? That's the thing.
Not everybody wants to use Arch. I think it's probably be the reason, right?
But at that point, like, you're not using like the distro parts of it. You're just using the tools. It's like that's what you're booting into that for. You're just using the tools. It's the same tools on any of those. It's just Black Arch has more of the tools out of the box. I mean, unless you just don't have a big enough flash drive for that, then okay, maybe Kali could fit on your flash drive where Black Arch can't. I don't know, like stuff like that. But yeah.
Okay. Tyler, go ahead.
I honestly cannot remember exactly what I was going to say, but I know we were talking about ButterFS, and I was going to say this is definitely going to get stones thrown at me, vitriol just thrown at me, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Just once you learn Nix and declarative like distros, the biggest selling point of ButterFS and its snapshots just disappear. You really, again, I know this is going to get me kicked out of here and beaten up like so bad, but just start learning a declarative system. You'll love it. Your life will get better. All the other distros just won't have that same glimmer they had to them. You're welcome.
Okay, just not the same thing, but okay. War Thunder, go ahead.
Oh, okay. First, Zany, what operating system are you on right now? First, because the last I knew you were on Pop OS.
Nix.
You're on Nix now. Okay, yeah. So you can at least redeem yourself there.
Mm-hmm.
But to get on to like Matt's point,
not a real distro. I'm just not a real distro. Sorry, go ahead.
Pretty much. Yeah, about ButterFS and whatnot. I've always used ext4 because it's kind of default on a lot of things. I'm not saying there's not advantages to ButterFS. I've just never dove into it. And yeah, Matt, you're right. If Mint or another distro just actually set up ButterFS correctly and actually did snappers, which I will admit, the short time I did do OpenSUSE, yeah, they did that right. That did work pretty well. Their installer is god awful, but beyond that,
it's being replaced. We got to remember, it's based on SUSE's.
Yeah,
and it's old. It's like the third oldest distro out there. So
their net installer is still the only net installer that, for me, fails to get a DHCP IP address and then
Fails.
asked me to point it to a local ISO file to install to the hard drive.
Yeah, it fails for everyone. It's a shit ISO. That's why you just download the 5 gigabytes of regular offline ISO. Yeah. I made a whole video just recently about the not being perfect distro, and it's true. But the Btrfs thing is really, in the almost 2 years that I've been using it, I can't tell you the number of times where I've just, you guys know me. I switch back and forth between GNOME and KDE and like 6 times a month. It's the stupidest thing ever. I don't know why I do it. It's stupid. But the ability to just move back and forth, and yes, I know Tyler, NixOS, I could do that with NixOS really easily. It's just one line in the configuration file. We have a configuration file. Huh? Sorry. But
it's okay to be jealous. It's
I
fine.
can use an actual Linux distro without having to manage a configuration file, is what I'm trying to say. But that whole situation is just really cool. I understand the problem with it, though, is because, like with my posited scenario of going to Btrfs, snapshots aren't backups by default, right? And you can set them up as backups of your home directory. You can do that, but then it has to back up to a Btrfs drive. They both have to be the same. That's the way Btrfs works, and that limits where you can actually do a backup to, because nobody is formatting their external hard drive as a Btrfs drive. Mostly, I mean, if they're going to do something other than ext4, they're going to use ZFS or something like that. So I see the reasons why. I just wish, if we're going to have a whole bunch of niche distros, why we can have at least a couple Debian-based that do Btrfs well. Sorry for my little thing. GNOME, you're next.
I just had to throw a bit of shade, I guess. I heard a lot of talk about Black Arch there for a minute. And it's probably been 5 years since I've tried that distro. But, I booted up the Black Arch. I think I installed Black Arch on top of Arch, actually. But regardless, it couldn't use the GPU on Hashcat. The wrong version of Java is installed for Burp Suite. Like, none of the tools work. This is why I use Kali, because the tools actually work.
Oof, that's some oof in there. I haven't had those problems when I've used it, but then again, I don't know, what am I using? I don't know. Yeah. User cases.
Yeah, you're both hackers. I'm obviously hackers. You use the distros, you're hackers. Nate, go ahead.
Well, I'm the hacker of all hackers because I use Pop OS, which means my NVIDIA card works. Anyways, sorry. I just had to throw that out there. Anyways, I was actually going to mention, I don't see why more distros don't come with actual, like, different options than other than just XF T4 or something like that. Some of them do, don't get me wrong, but like there's a lot of them, they just set it as this and that's what it is. And so I don't know why, like, more of them don't, in their installer, just don't put an option to change it, because even Pop OS don't do that.
Yeah. So the argument is going to be that it would make it overly complicated for non-technical users, right? The problem with that argument, though, is that you have a partition manager at all. If your argument is that the partition manager is too techy for non-tech people, then you should just get rid of it and provide a dropdown. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, Gparted exists though.
Right, but it's not surfaced, right? But most distros have like a half-assed partition manager there built into the installer, and it's very easy to get to. Like Fedora takes you right to it to begin with, right? In order to choose the drive you want to install it on, it takes you to the partition manager. OpenSUSE, old ass fucking installer, I agree, but it has a guided and a manual setup, and it's all sorts of effed up, and way overly complicated. I don't know how Ubuntu does it now with their new installer, but I'm sure they still have some kind of pared down way of choosing your hard drive along with anything else that you want to do, right? And probably like an advanced button for making appropriate changes. If you're going to have the advanced button, then you have the opportunity to offer other people options. Or if your argument is that the partition manager's too, like I said, too techy for non-tech people, then just get rid of it and make it a drop down. That should all be. I believe that that's what some distros are going towards, where you just choose the drive and that's the only option you have. If you want to make other choices, you have to do gparted or something. D-Dubs, go ahead.
Just briefly on the BetterFS snapshots, you don't have to have a destination that's also BetterFS. For my home partitions, when they were BetterFS, I would actually create a snapshot to make sure I capture any open files, and I would just mount that snapshot, and then I used rsync.
But if you
So
if you want to use ButterFS send and receive, they have,
yes, correct.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if you want that capability, though, you don't have to have it BetterFS on the other side
Okay.
to have that kind of.
The reason why I say that is because one of the premier features of doing the whole backup thing would be to use ButterFS send and receive, because it gives you a whole lot of extra options and speed and shit, right?
It does, but again, if you one of the things, if you're trying to do a pure mirror, then the rsync gives you those same features. I'm saying there are certainly plenty of ways to work around that. Drew, before I forget, your next script will be during the install. You drop to the shell, curl your script to configure the BetterFS on a Debian system, and then just exit out of the shell and continue the install. What do you think?
I'm gonna ask you to say that one more time when we're not doing this. But I simply raised my hand to see if I could troll you after you were done, and now you've actually made sense. So damn you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. Yeah, so I was thinking about that because you're so good with scripts, then that would solve the Debian BetterFS install problem without having to build your own custom OS.
No, I hear you. That might be something worth looking at. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. But my thing that I was going to do, what I was going to say, regardless, was I agreed with Nate, and in the sense that there are a lot of distros out there that are simply skins for their, for whatever. Like, I mean, I have a lot of respect for the people that have done really nice configurations. I mean, I think Dubs, you even like talk to me about Archcraft at some point, and I had already tried it a couple 3 years ago or what have you, but it is basically just an Arch skin that uses like BSPWM and a few other window managers and stuff like that. But we have a very good friend that has an Arch-based distro that is a KDE skin as well. So there is benefits, but at the same time, I totally get what you're saying in terms of.
I need to just reply to that real quick. Sorry, but the one thing that Archcraft does that is different from any other spin that supports multiple desktops is he's isolated the config files per desktop to avoid the conflicts and the overwrites. So in that sense, that is definitely a value add compared to a standard Arch distro. Just so we're very clear, it's not just.
No, I stole that idea as well. So thank you very much.
I'm actually quite. So I did a poll in the YouTube chat, Drew, that 36% of the people who responded are using ButterFS. That's way higher than I thought would happen. So, I mean, I expected the majority to say no, but the fact that a third of the people who responded say yeah, that's pretty impressive to me. So maybe Drew OS is a thing that should happen.
No, I like Dub's idea of just kind of like scripting it so that it automatically does it for you.
Have you ever bootstrapped Debian? I'm just curious.
No, and I think Josh has been chastised me for not doing that. So
because you could just script the whole thing from beginning to end, and just basically create Debian install versus Arch install. That'd be pretty freaking cool. It'd be a ton of effing work though. So, but it'd be cool.
Right, I'll get right on that.
Get yourself a Patreon and get it funded. I'm just saying. Sell some merch. Damn it. War Thunder, go ahead.
Yeah, now it's D-Dub's fault. We can't have Drew be in Linux. We have to have the install script instead. So I'm sad now.
I gotta jump in here though. I have a name, Just a Guy Linux, already built in with a logo and everything. I have to say that it would be a super easy kind of transition.
The
for
logo
me.
is half the work. Come on, man.
Just a guy Linux OS.
Yeah. It's gonna
That's
happen
just
one of
too
these
long of
days.
a name, though.
We'll troll him often enough. He'll just say, "Screw it! I'm gonna put a couple days into this." Doing
Just have the default background just be a Chad
it.
with BSPWM by
You have to
default.
shorten it to like Josh. I'm running Josh. Josh.
No, I didn't, Kevin. I said that the 37% said yes, and 63% said no. So I didn't read it wrong. Also, no, snapshots aren't for Butterfest only. ZFS also has snapshots. I think that those are probably the only. Well, probably Bcache FS because they're kind of like a marriage between, but I've never used it. So, Nate, go ahead.
So I want to reply to two different things. Number one, I'm not going to let slip that Matt said that he hated everyone. Basically, Matt is looking for the next Genghis Khan to take out like 1/3 of the earth. And then number two, we did a poll and it says, and I'm going to call it now because it's been up there forever. It says, is NixOS a distro? The no's are beating it by 5-3. So NixOS is not a distro. It's been proven.
Officially not a distro.
Officially not a distro.
I just want to.
I'll say I voted both yes and no because it is and it isn't simultaneously.
Also, it's just funny that you mentioned Genghis Khan. I have the book.
See, I knew.
Instruction manual right here. Also, very good book for those of you who are interested in history. Anyways, so we kind of got off onto a whole Butterfest, rabbit hole there for a little while. So does anybody? Nate, go ahead.
Well, how about the next question? Is there any desktop environment that's useless?
Oh, that's a good one. The answer to that is GNOME. And Drew's over there like, all of them. I guess it's true.
That is the low-hanging fruit, right?
Yeah. Window managers, users everywhere, like, yeah, all of them. So there's a couple that come to mind. So there's the one that's in Bodhi Linux, is basically a skin version of Enlightenment, and it is the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life. So that one comes to mind.
It was so ugly it made me switch.
Yeah.
I switched to LMDE because it was so bad and so ugly. I was like, I can't handle this.
Yeah. And another one, and this is going to piss some people off, but I don't think Mate still needs it. Are there still people hollering for GNOME 2? I mean, what does Mate give you these days that like XFCE or Cinnamon doesn't give you? So it's one of those things where it feels like those it's so there's also one that is based on like KDE3. Is that like Trinity or something like that?
Yeah, it's Trinity.
Yeah, so like that's still around. Like some people just have a really hard time letting go, and sometimes you just have to learn to let go. And I think it's time to let go of Trinity or KD3. That's we're on KD6 now, so I think we can move that beyond. And I think we can get rid of Mate, which is GNOME 2. They're in the 40 series now. So I think that things like that, where it's just people using it because they preferred that workspace. I mean, that's fine, but I think putting resources towards maintaining something that is that old. I think somebody's still out there maintaining Unity too. So I think that's the
Unity thing was a more recent revival.
Yeah, and it'd be different. I think it'd be different because there were rumors that they're going to go on and do Unity 10 or whatever. But unless you're going to actually make it better, if you're just living the past, I think it's not great. Arch Penguin, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to come to Mate's defense a little bit. I think that it fills the niche of lightweight desktop. It definitely isn't a really heavy, and also is very nostalgic.
I get the nostalgic point. That's fine. I don't know that it requires resources to be developed on, but the whole lightweight things, there are desktop environments out there that are way lighter. XFC is lighter. LXQ is probably lighter. You know,
How is Cinnamon compared to it these days? Like, is the resource usage that much higher on Cinnamon? Because wasn't Cinnamon developed from Mate originally, or something like that?
Cinnamon is way heavier.
because
Okay.
Cinnamon has a,
GPU wise, it is.
yeah, Cinnamon is more of a GNOME fork than a Mate fork, I think.
And I think it was forked from GNOME 3. I could be wrong,
Well,
but I think it was a very early GNOME 3.
because you can use GNOME extensions in Cinnamon, so I'm assuming that there's a GNOME 3 something running around in the background. Also, some Linux Mint Man, it uses Mutter as the window manager, right?
It's a
Yeah.
fork of Mutter called Muffin,
So yeah,
but basically, yeah.
Yeah,
I
so-
think right now they're forked off of like a GNOME 3 version. I know they just rebased in Mint 21, but they'll probably rebase again here in a year or two to kind of catch up
I'm
with
just
things
stupid.
as they
That's
move to
okay.
Wayland.
well, so there are certain. I mean, when I think the basis of all of our discussion here tonight, guys, is that there's a lot of choice on Linux, and I think we could have a whole discussion whether or not a whole bunch of choice is a good thing or bad thing, and maybe we want to have that discussion because we still have an hour to go. But for me personally, it's a really hard question to answer. Like, are there too many desktop environments? Are there too many distros? Is the question, and I the reason why it's a hard question for me to answer is because I see both sides of it. Like, yes, a ton of different choices is really hard for new users because what do you use? I mean, how do you make the choice of between Linux Mint and Ubuntu if you're a new user? Like, how do you choose between any of these distros? How do you choose between the 19 different Arch-based distros that are out there that are still developed, or how many ever there are? Probably way more than that. So I see that point of it, but also Linux without choice would be Windows. So Linux without choice, we'd all be using Debian, and that just sounds like a horrendous thing to to force on all of us. Nate, go ahead.
I would say that for new users, I don't think the argument works because I mean most people are going to point them to things like Linux Mint and Pop OS, or even some kind of Steam OS type distro. So that argument's kind of been taken away. But I will say the main argument is the ones that are actually useful and the ones that are just dumb. And I mean that exactly what it is. Because some of them are just dumb. Like there's no point of them in actually existing. But then you have certain ones that actually do function on certain things that do it really well. Unfortunately, NixOS is kind of one of those. But Pop OS, at least I'm on the video card works. You know, War Thunder is like this minty boy. I don't know what his problem is. Drew is just the grandpa. I mean, Debian is just there. It's holding everything together. Matt is German. So that's all I got to say.
You're saying he's so lost looking for a con that he's gone full German and everything?
Yes.
Not actually German. Close Dutch, but at least it's on the same continent. Go ahead.
About the choices, and I used to do a little bit of tutoring for a cyber boot camp, and I'd tell my students they would come from Windows, and they could barely use Windows sometimes, and we'd be dumping them right into a terminal by week 3. Linux has so many options. It's overwhelming if you get to looking at it. There's just too many options for everything. Like there's Network Manager, DHCPD, DHConfig. And that's just for network management. Which one do you want to use? What's the difference between all 3 of them? Which one do I need? And then you have desktop environments. That one's a whole nother story. There's more than those. Linux, the choices in Linux can be overwhelming, and knowing what you need to put a system together if you're not just using Linux Mint, but if you're trying to use something like Arch or something you build from scratch, knowing what you need to put into the system can be one thing, and then knowing the options, which one you want, how to build it together, is a whole nother story. So yeah, I think there are a lot of options in Linux, and it can be overwhelming for new users.
Agree. Nerdgasm, go ahead.
Yeah, it absolutely can be overwhelming. That's true. But yeah, it's definitely not. It doesn't need to be like a binary of like we either have no choice and it's Windows, or we have overwhelming choice and there's a million things out there. Like there could be less, but still quite a few choices. Really, I think what comes down to where a lot of the sentiment could reside is how things are presented. And so many things out there are presented as like this is gonna be the thing. This is great. This is the thing. And really, they're experiments, or they're not protests, but advocations for certain styles or certain types of technologies or this or that. And it would be a lot nicer to us trying to look through and decide things if they weren't all presented as like, yeah, this is the big thing. I want this to be a thing that everyone's using, and blah blah blah. It's going to be the one that supersedes it all, when it really is a pitch to get integrated into the existing other things instead. That would probably resolve a lot of this. That shouldn't exist. That shouldn't exist. Well, no, I mean, this should exist, but just not on its own. It should be part of what we already have and these other suites here.
I think that the biggest thing that when you first start out on Linux, the thing is you think that all these choices matter, because for you they do. Like you when I first started using Linux, I thought you had to change distros in order to change desktop environments. It took me a while to learn that you could install things on any distro. And I think that once you've used Linux long enough, you learn that Linux is going to Linux. I'm really going to put that on a t-shirt one of these days, because, for the most part, unless you're talking about Nix OS or Geeks or something, most Linux, once you have it installed, is exactly the same. It just does this, they all have the GNU core utils. If you're using the terminal, they all run your browser exactly the same. They all can install OBS and Discord and everything else. How you install them probably is going to be the same for you, because the vast majority of people are going to go do that from a store of some kind, right? And that experience is pretty universal no matter what you're on. But it takes a while to get to that idea. Like, the keyword for distro hopping, as weird as it sounds, is to distro hop as much as possible until you come to the realization that you're just having the same experience on every single distro no matter what. And that takes a while, but I think that the big thing there is that the choice will eventually lead you to the choice. Like, it'll be the distro that you're going to be on forever. For Drew, like, it's Debian, right? For a lot of people, it is like Linux Mint or OpenSUSE or whatever. Once you get there, you're there, and the choice no longer matters. But for the new users, it's much harder, because you don't have that ability to say, well, I'm going to have the same experience no matter where I go, because you don't know that for sure. Des, go ahead. Don't forget
So
to... There you go.
actually want to so far my actual code has gone into my language, but I'm still working on a design of a new operating system, actually, where there's hopefully going to be a Linux layer where everything works like Linux, and layers above that where things work differently. So that's going to be cool if I can translate that into code. And I just decided to avoid the choice problem by having it ship with cinnamon. But people should be able, if they are savvy enough, to change it to other things in the same way as like Linux Mint or whatever, if you want to change your desktop environment.
Nate, go ahead.
So after all that seriousness, I'm going to troll Zany back since he's been trolling me in the chat the entire time. So if you want to install this lovely hacking thing back here, it is sudo rm-rf/Hollywood. There you go. Actually, don't run that command, by the way.
Just Tyler, right? Just
Tyler.
I asked for the link to the exe to be clear. I want to be able to run it on Linux, so if you could do that for me, that'd be great.
I'm sorry, it's a DLL file. I'm sorry.
Just pipe that shit to bash. It's gonna be fine. Gnome, go ahead. Yeah, you're still muted, man.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, that's fine. So I think that when it comes to desktop environments, I think that there, like I said, was saying, the movement between different distributions is something that you eventually can realize is a waste of time, because eventually you're going to find the thing that works best for you, and you're also going to realize that for the most part you have the same experience no matter where you're at. I think that that's true for the vast majority of people. Some people just like distro hopping and they'll never grow out of it, and I understand that too, because installing Linux is kind of fun, and setting stuff up, and you can kind of get addicted to that. But most people will eventually find home base. Desktop environments are a little bit different, at least for me personally, because they not only do they change, but also I see the benefits between both the two main ones, and I have things that I like on both, so I switch back and forth between them. Now I have a lot of ADD. Like, I can't focus on anything for any period of time ever. So part of the reasons why it's changed are due to that. But I think that for most people, they have a way of working and will also eventually just find home base. But I think for me to have that situation happen for me would take perfection, and I'm just never going to reach that thing. Like I think the closest I get to is Qtile, but even then, Qtile is a little, it's buggy around the edges, and sometimes like I'm having some weird, right. For example, right now, if you're watching the stream, up in the upper left hand corner there is a microphone. Why is there a microphone up there? I have no clue. It's not part of my bar. It's just something that it does when I'm sharing in a browser sometime. Like, I don't know why that happens. I think it's supposed to be in the system tray, but it's there. Why is it there? I have no clue. It's the stupidest fucking thing. It's been bugging me for an hour and a half. Like, I look up like, what the fuck is that? So yeah, I'm having some issues. All right. So to go back to the original thing, does anybody else have any distros that they think that they want to share that shouldn't exist, or alternative, we can do ones that you think is there a type of distro out there that doesn't currently exist that you'd like to see pushed into existence? Nate, go ahead.
I would like Google to stop its nonsense and actually open up the kernel for Android and just make it totally supported into native Linux, so we can actually use Android apps.
Amen.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You can only use Android x86. It's a full blown OS that'll run on.
I thought that got discontinued or stopped being maintained.
But the problem is Google just
You can
updated their
still use
stuff, and some of that stuff doesn't work.
Well, we wouldn't need extraneous projects like Andbox and whatever the other one is. If you could just pop in a APK and run the damn thing, that would be super cool. But on the other hand, there are a lot of things that you wouldn't want to run that you could find reasons to say no, this isn't a good idea. So I don't know.
If Google did that, then it would make me switching to a Linux phone too easy, and they don't want to do that. And that's what I really want to do within the next year. Like, I want my next phone to be a Linux phone. Yes, have some headaches and stuff, but man, I'm ready to switch away from Android.
So I'm in the process of reviewing the Furry Labs FLX1 thing. I have this thing here. Video to come out soonish, probably. And the hardware's really good. Like in terms of actually using it. The battery life is fucking shit, but that's beside the point. the software is just god awful. Like, it is so astonishingly bad. It is better than Plasma, but the app support on it, like, I want like Proton Pass. Like, Proton Pass does have a Linux app that you can download via Flatpak. Can't access it on this. And also the software keyboard is really bad, so I think if we could use Android apps, they'd have better integration with the system keyboard, because it's actually meant to be used on a phone, where most of these things are meant to be used on a desktop and are just kind of shrunk down. And it's like the early. You guys remember back in the early days of of responsive web pages, when they didn't work like half the time because they were all trying to get to a different resolution, and all phone, especially on like Android phones, they all have different aspect ratios and shit. So the web page would be funky. It's kind of like where the apps are in like the mobile version of GNOME and KDE. Like, you can, they got all the UI stuff there, but some of it's in really funky places. And this thing has F-Droid on it, by the way. Like, I can use anything that's an F-Droid, but it doesn't work well. Like, it just doesn't work well, which is...
What phone was that again?
It's called the Furry Labs, FURILABS, FLX1.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is, like, this thing is built like a tank. Like, I could hit somebody over the head with this thing, and it probably weighs just as much as the ThinkPad that Nate was showing off on the podcast the other day. Like, this thing is like, it weighs like the vast majority of a pound. What I'm saying it's really, it's a chunky boy. It's weird that it's this thick and the battery life is so astonishingly bad. Yeah, it's like, it's not that thick, but it weighs. It's very, very dense. Yeah, everybody show your ThinkPads off, all right? You know. But the problem with this phone isn't even like the battery life is what it is, but the software is where it just. And I don't think that's Freelab's fault. The PinePhone had the exact same problem. Darcy, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna mention I had the PinePhone Pro, and I haven't used it like at all. Not that it's bad or anything. Like, I installed stuff and then I just kind of got left behind. Like, it was like, one program I really wanted. Like, I really wanted Joplin to work, and I couldn't get it to work. And then I tried for a bit, and then I just kind of gave up. And I don't know. I feel like it's like that with like when you're on a desktop or a laptop, like, you can do a lot of things to make it work if you're on the go. Like, you can just write a patch, and that's a lot harder to do on a phone. It makes me think, like, I used to have one of those laser keyboards. Like, they're so like silly looking, but like, I don't know. I wish it was like, I don't think there's anything really like most of the aspects they get right for it. And I don't know about the FLX one, but I mean the battery.
What is your daily driver, phone driver?
It's a Pixel 5. I mean,
Okay,
I don't
all right.
really like it. But I just kind of stayed with it because, like, I don't know, I procrastinated about like writing the software to fix the software to make the hardware work, I guess. And it's like every once in a while, the PinePhone camera just like
Doesn't
has a
launch.
moment and
Yeah.
doesn't want to launch, doesn't
Yeah.
want to take a photo. And they're like, I really want to use it every day, but I don't want to have to like write a program or write a patch while I'm trying to take a photo, I guess that's how it feels for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with it. Like, the whole thing is like, you don't realize how important applications are until you don't have access to the applications you need to use. And it's not even like some esoteric stuff that you want. It's like everyday things, like Proton. Like, I want to be able to have Proton Pass. Like, even if I could just use it in the browser, it would be fine. But it's not. It's just not easy to do, because especially when you're used to having it built into the operating system, basically. And like everyday things that you just are so used to using just aren't there. And then you can get to the whole gaming thing, because I do a lot of mobile gaming. None of those things just work there at all. So, Arch Penguin, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a suggestion for Darcy there about her Pine phone. I don't know if you've tried Postmarket OS. It might be something you look into. As
I
far as
have.
dealing that thing, I don't
Yeah.
think you're going to be able to have a very good experience. The thing that it lacks is kind of the horsepower it needs. The idea is great, and I wish they would do something with more modern hardware so that it would actually work a little better.
Yeah, they haven't updated that thing in a minute. Like it's been
Yeah,
like
that's my
half
issue
a
with that.
decade or
But
some shit
I
like that.
just wanted to suggest trying that post-market OS.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
I've fiddled
I've
around a
tried
lot
it.
with phones, and I've tried like all the Ubuntu Touch and all the different ones. But I think that one is probably one of the better.
Yeah. I think maybe if I just install a newer version and like play around a bit, and I'll feel like I don't want to, but I do want to show it off. Like it's really cool. So like I've got to make a decision. Do I just want to carry two phones around? And if it doesn't work, I use the other one. Like that's so it sounds stupid, I guess, but I feel like I want to do that because it's so cool. I want to show people this, but I don't want to show them like when it doesn't work. So
Yeah, and when you're putting
yeah.
on a demonstration for your friends, like, oh, look at this cool Linux phone, and then all of a sudden it boot loops or something. Like, oh yeah, that turns out not so cool. Nate, go ahead.
Speaking of like Android type Linux devices, I actually want a good ARM laptop that runs Linux extremely well because I need battery life. And when you're hauling like a ThinkPad in between servers, it tends to get quite heavy and quite obnoxious really quick. And also, I have to constantly plug it in because my battery dies quick. So having something that is ARM based and maybe like running just something simple like Debian would be perfect.
That just makes me think of what is Pine actually doing? Like when was the last time they actually released a product? Like, are they still even in business? It just feels like it's been like many years since they released something. Like the last time I heard anything was like the Pine Time, and it was like 6 years ago or something. Uh, Nerdgasm, go ahead.
Yeah, so from what I understand, one of the things that holds back a lot of different potential Linux phones from being great is definitely the horsepower, because a lot of times they're cheaper, they're using crappier MediaTek or this or that SoCs, and like obviously for the most part Qualcomm is the one that actually offers the power, but the problem with that is drivers past a certain point. Actually getting drivers or building things for it seems to be a problem, because once Qualcomm just stop supporting these things, then it's entirely upon the community, and it's really hard. It's one of the main reasons why we have all these piles of old phones from the last decade and a half that can't get on more recent versions of Androids or Linux or whatever. It's almost always drivers that are holding things back. But like for my usage in phones, I've gotten to the point where it's just like I don't need necessarily apps. I need functions, and I have some requirements, of course, with functions. But I need functions, and I need those functions to actually work. And that does seem to be a huge problem. Is that a lot of times the functions break or don't actually work, and that is definitely problematic. But like I'm okay with things being a bit more cumbersome to use, have to change my process a bit, and not necessarily take a process that takes 5 times as long, but if it takes twice as long or a little bit longer, has an extra couple steps, okay. But yeah, there's a number of little things holding back there for sure. But I want to make the switch as soon as I can, and it's not looking good.
You know, a company that could do like be the next ARM thing is Framework. I think that they could do the laptop thing, and Framework would do a good job on that. Whether or not they will, I think they're working on it. I just don't.
Which SoC would they use?
Well, I don't know, because if you follow like some of the people who cover that kind of hardware, a lot of like the ARM stuff is not going smaller; it's going bigger. Like like 100 cores or whatever. You can put it into a desktop, which would be fine, where you have that kind of power. But in a laptop, that thing would set itself on fire. Darcy, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, like you said, like when's the last time the Pine released anything? And I mean, they also got hit by the like with the U.S. China blockade on shipping, and that's probably gonna. I think the last thing was the Pine Note, but it didn't seem like it was really usable yet. I know a lot of people that still use the Pine Sol though. That's like really convenient.
I'm gonna get a Pine Sol.
Okay, so
I don't solder, but I
mm,
will.
the best thing I've ever purchased from Pine is this thing here. This is it's not a power bank, but it's basically like you plug things
mhm.
into charge it. It's a charger, and it works really well. And I can put in a whole bunch of different things. Has wireless charger on the top, so I can charge a phone, charge 4 other different things. It's like a bank, but it doesn't have an actual battery in it. But yeah, it's cool. It's also like $20. They have the market cornered on cheap stuff, and uh, I don't know that Linux is ready for, especially on like the mobile stuff. They're not. You can't do ultra cheap until the software is there to support it, um, because you need that hardware, like horsepower, the more expensive, more beefier stuff until the software, like Android, it wasn't that thing. Like it was really hard to get a really cheap, good Android phone for a long time until Android got into the point where it could run on cheap, and like low powered hardware. Tyler, go ahead.
I was actually going to say it is surprising Pine hasn't put out a new device with one of the newer rock chip process. Like they have rock chip devices already, but even inside of rock chip's own lineup, they've gotten some much better SoCs with much better performance and a lot of upgrades. And for like $160, you can pick up, I think it's like I think it's called an Orange Pi Plus, but that thing has a lot more horsepower than the one that is in the Pinebook Pro or whatever. They can go all the way up to, I think, 32 gigabytes of memory. And they support eMMC and M.2 SSDs. And I mean, with something like that, you could build a killer phone. And also, too, here is one thing I will say. Absolutely. I will purchase the next Pine product they put out, especially if it's a phone with an M.2 slot. I don't care what the it could have one of the most mediocre screens in the world on it. If that thing has an M.2 slot in it, my phone is going to be extremely fast. My entire memory is not only upgradable, but like just much better. That is a great upgradable phones need to come back with a vengeance.
Your battery
Give
would
me a
last 30 seconds.
no. I mean, with an M.2, it wouldn't be that bad. And also, theoretically, too, if you have a hot swappable battery, I'm game for that. Like, that would be sick.
So Tyler's gonna have himself a really fast phone with swappable storage, and then a car battery hacked to the back of his backpack, so he can just have,
Yeah.
and it's still gonna only last an hour and a half. Because like M.2, and I may be completely wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that one of the biggest power draws on like a laptop is going to be your M.2 slot. Maybe in like Windows or whatever, they do things to, um, not make that as bad, or maybe even regular old Linux. I don't know that phones are there for that yet. They have so many other, but you're right. The modular aspects. What was that? The Fairphone? There's like a company like Fairphone that does the whole
Yes.
modular thing. Don't hear anything about them anymore. I think they released something a couple of years ago, but their release cycle's so slow. By the time anybody, even thinks about it, they're releasing old hardware to begin with, and then it's, they don't release it again for like another 3 or 4 years. Again, I'd point towards Framework. If Framework could do the phone thing, I think that their release cycle is much faster. They have a lot more, in terms of investor capital to point towards that kind of stuff. I just don't know that that's the direction they want to go. Nate, go ahead.
So I'm going to rapid fire 3 things. First and foremost, actually, System 76 does make a workstation that is based off of the Ampere ARB CPU. It's a beast. Go check out Jeff Gerling's video. Number 2, I think that for a phone that is modular, Frameworks needs to get onto that. And number 3, Darcy, if you will go subscribe to Nate Picks Tech World, then I will put a monitor in my ceiling.
No, hold on a second. Drew has been calling for this for months, and all we had to do was subscribe to your channel.
Yes, yeah, go for it.
Oh, I just rescinded my my subscribe to your channel.
Arts Penguin, go ahead.
Yeah, so not a modular suggestion, but I do have a suggestion for anyone that would like to tinker with phones. I've done a lot of that type of stuff in my years of tinkering. Might I suggest the OnePlus type of phones? You can get them on Swappa. I don't know if you've ever heard of Swappa. It's a used market.
Swappa.
Yeah, so pick up like a 6T or 7T, and you can pretty much do whatever you want. You know, you can unlock the bootloader. It allows you to do anything you want. You can, I mean, if you're good, you could make your own operating system on it. You know, that's been my experience with all the different variants of ROMs for actual Linux on a phone. Was on the OnePlus 6T is the one I used. Oh, and the other thing about NVMe's, they do make low power versions of them that you can use for a phone that would help with that, by the way.
I knew they don't know they make those mini ones, so that could be a thing, like with the like the Steam Deck or whatever. So when I was going on about power draw, I didn't even think about the Steam Deck. So they obviously have solved that problem.
Right, and or just they're even full size ones that are just lower. They draw less power.
Cool. Nerdgasm, go ahead.
So I believe Pine does release a new phone every couple of years. I think they just released one last year, the Pine Phone 5, which Linus Sebastian did use and shout all over at one point.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but this sucker failed Pop OS install, so don't even.
Yeah, like I'm not suggesting the the Fairphone 5, but yeah, no, like they are doing stuff. They're putting out new stuff somewhat regularly. They're not just doing nothing. But even still, the Fairphone is limited on how far it can be supported because it's using the Qualcomm chipset. So while it does get updates until 2031 officially, at that point, even the community is going to be a little hard pressed to get certain things working with newer kernels and newer OSs.
Des, go ahead.
I've actually got 2 monitors now and a webcam pretty much on each, and I'm much happier with 2 monitors and 2 webcams than I was with just 1 monitor and 1 webcam.
I can just see Nate there shuddering at the idea of only having 2 monitors. Like the horror.
Actually, not to cut in line or anything, but I believe there's like 7 missing from his background. So I'm a little concerned about his health.
They're in front of him, Tyler. They're in front of him.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, he finally moved them to where he could see them. Gotcha.
Okay. Monitors behind you don't do you much good. Nate, go ahead. Defend yourself.
Okay, first and foremost, my office is going through a renovation, so calm down. And yes, there's several more in front of me. Secondly, you was talking about the low power one, M.2. There you go. That's a low power one.
Is that like in a remote control or something? What is that?
No, it's actually inside of a NVMe drive that you can use portable.
That makes sense.
With a USB-C.
Yeah, I'm not fancy enough for one of those. I still have a regular old SSD that floats around here
See?
somewhere.
Yeah, I don't have it here. I've got one at my chair that I install random distros on. It's a NVMe to USB-C, and then I just have another dongle somewhere here on my desk that converts it to A, and I could just plug into any machine. Back when I was playing with Bazite, I installed that on the drive, and then I just plugged it into my main tower off a USB hub and just played around for a while, and I'll nuke it, I'll install something else, and I don't have to hurt my hardware or anything.
The key word there for dongle is somewhere around here.
And really,
That
like
is key.
when I have to worry about the power draw of my M.2, that's going to be a good day, because like the biggest power draw is and is going to continue to
Oh.
be the screen. Like, obviously, the screen, the backlight, even if you turn off the backlight, the screens take up the most power, and then it's typically communication services after that, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cellular, whatever. That like depends on a lot of other factors. But if I'm worrying about the power draw of my M2, then that's probably a good day.
Nate, go ahead.
I was gonna say, power draw at my house is a good thing. I live in a certain state that has very low power costs, because I'd be in slight trouble.
Yeah, I don't
Speaking
live in one of
screens.
those states, and it is horrendous. Like, it's not funny. It's actually made me think of redoing my whole home lab, because the Xeon server that I've been using just draws quite a bit of power. And while it's not horrible, I could save, a little bit of money by going to more like micro PCs, just like get 2 or 3 of those things and run them, and I could use like half of the power that I do. So I also I really want to get into the habit of turning my computer off. I'm really bad at just leaving it on, because maybe I'll wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and decide I want to look at the internet for some reason or whatever, and I don't want to have to wait for the damn thing to boot. But that's a habit I need to fix. Go ahead.
I just did a quick Google, so I don't know if this is accurate or not, but Google says that the power draw on a Gen 4 M2 is about 8 to 12 watts. So that, I mean, it's not a bunch, but it is something to take note of, definitely.
I mean, if we're gonna have it, the chances of it actually being Gen 4 are pretty low. Probably, right? It's gonna be It's gonna be like a older one. Also, I mean, can
I
you?
don't mean to cut in line at all, but also to Matt, just so we're clear, I don't think in a phone application you would necessarily need Gen 4
Well,
anyway.
Also, there's a reason why Gen 4 NVMe drives come with heat sinks attached to the back of them. So, yeah, let's put that in a phone, and I'll see you in the hospital for your 4th-degree burns. Like it's gonna be fine. You're just on fire now. It's good.
Gen 3 is still 6 to 9 watts. It's still a 10-watt load. We can just round up to 10 from 9. Gen 3 is still 10 watts.
It's gonna be heat. Those of you who have a Steam Deck, that thing gets very hot. Now it has other reasons to get hot, but I'm sure that the storage on it is not helping it any.
I'm gonna test. Oh, sorry.
Darcy, go ahead.
Yeah. So Matt, you mentioned about leaving the desktop on. So this is something I think about a lot. Like you've got like 7 different options, right? You've got ACPI, like S3 and S4, which is sleep and hibernate. Then you can just like like there are other things you can do as well. Like if I think about this so much, but I think I procrastinate about like leaving my desktop on. And what I found is with my Avoid Linux distro, I kind of don't want to think about it anymore. I just want to use the sleep, because it's so fast. I go to sleep state in half a second, and it boots in half a second. And it's using like 3 watts passive just for the RAM. And like compared to the Hibernate, which takes about like 2 minutes to write everything. And I don't know, I just thought I mentioned that. Like I do feel a bit conflicted about having passive draw, but it's like it's so fast. Like if I'm just like going out for like groceries or something and being power conscious. So yeah, I thought I mentioned that.
Yeah, So if I'm on GNOME or KDE, I have it go to sleep, and it works well. Um, it's a problem for me because the way so I do something really weird. So I have all of the storage for my home lab attached to my main PC, and then my home lab server attaches to that via NFS. And I did that because USB pass through on Proxmox is the worst thing in existence. It's just so astonishingly bad. So that's more of a me problem. So having my computer go to sleep means that all of the things on my home lab just stop working because all the storage is there. But when I'm on not, I'm usually not on GNOME KDE. I'm usually on Qtile or something like that, and then I have a situation where I just turn the monitors off and keep the computer stays on. The thing is I tried actually turning my computer off every night before I had a home lab, and I saved like $20. Like I can afford $20, so I just leave it on. It doesn't seem like as much of a savings as I need it to be. I thought I was going to save like $50 or $70. Then that's real money. $20, I can afford that. I don't know what it would be now because power rates have gone significantly higher since I did that test. So yeah, I don't know. It's a quandary, but also I haven't shown enough initiative to actually want to change it. So, Nerdgasm, go ahead.
A couple things. I do have a Steam Deck, and it definitely gets quite warm. I am going to test at some point myself, swapping out the thermal paste for the Honeywell PTM 7950 or whatever. I'm gonna see how that goes. And then also with the NVMe and power draw, I think we might be thinking about things like a little bit backwards, like, oh, we need lower versions because we don't need that speed. Well, I think it might actually be better to go the opposite way, as really you have lower access time on there. You're hitting the device less if you are able to pull the data quicker. If we actually had like really good RAM caching and stuff like that, well then like, hey, it doesn't need to hit that SSD all that often, and when it does, it hits it really quick and then puts that part to sleep.
No.
Just I don't know, just throwing it out there.
I'm not a hardware engineer at all, but wouldn't something going faster make it use more? Not necessarily use more power, but make it run hotter.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, but for a shorter amount of time, so then it's able to dissipate the heat. So instead of it hitting it for 2 minutes straight, it hits it for 30 seconds to a minute. It's cooling down. It's caching everything in RAM. I don't know. I'm just thinking
Well,
we're talking about the same
mean,
power draws.
On one side of it, you're probably not going to be transferring terabytes of data on your phone. So yes, but also you're on fire for 30 seconds. So it's fine. Nate, go ahead.
I would just say just drill holes in the back of it. It'll be fun. Anyways,
the Steam Deck has holes in the back of it. You don't have to drill.
Just drill more, and put a big fat Noctua fan back
they
there.
Actually
it's
make
totally fine.
the funny thing is they actually make that. He's pointing to one right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But I was actually thinking about this. You talk about hardware limitation, but at the same point, I don't see why they couldn't just make, instead of doing an M.2 slot, why don't they just put an actual NVMe drive inside the phone and configure it in together? Because I don't really see the point of wanting to swap your storage, especially with Android. If you have root partitions on there, I don't see why you want to do that personally. Because if one of those get messed up, I mean, yeah, this got the whole A and B and whatever stuff. But at the same time, if one of those mess up, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah. I think that it's more for tinkerers. Like if you are someone who's going to install Linux on a phone, you're going to be doing your own partitioning anyways. For regular everyday people, you're right. Nobody's going to want that. Soldered memory and RAM and hard drive space and stuff like that. That's just the way that everyone has gone, and that's the way that it's always going to be, because it's just cheaper for them.
Well, to Zany's credit, though, if you're going to add one, I would say make it a secondary that you could swap in and out. That's what I would say, but keep the actual soldered one as the main root. drive.
You guys remember that Motorola phone? It had you can buy it from like Verizon or whatever, and you just bought it, and then it had a whole bunch of accessories that would attach via magnets to the back. That's what you need. Just have an NVMe pack that you could just smack onto the back with MagSafe, and bam, you have your terabyte of storage without having to pay Apple a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, really, Apple never going to do it, obviously, because it's Apple, but that's the solution for that. Like MagSafe has magnets in the back, they have a whole accessory ecosystem, and they do have hard drives that you can smack on there, but then you have to take a cord and go from one to the other, and it looks like you're carrying around your cables and stuff. So it's not the best thing ever, but I think something like that would be pretty damn cool if they could make it actually work well with magnets and lasers and shit. Beefy Joe, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me all right? All right, cool. Yeah. So I was more on the topic of Steam Deck. I actually just got one, and if you run 20-year-old visual novels on it and emulate stuff only, it actually doesn't get too hot. But on that note, kind of to the original topic of the call, I don't think that gaming distros should really exist. Like stuff like Garuda, where it feels like they just install every single gaming emulator and everything under the sun out of the box that most people do not need at all, and then they throw a neon theme on there to go with the RGB.
And then it breaks when you try to update it.
Yeah. I feel like so many gaming distros, like, I mean, yeah, sure, there's catchy, and people like praise the catchy kernel for its optimizations, but I mean, at the end of the day, for most people, it's just install Steam.
Yeah, the custom kernel thing is a very interesting discussion. I think we'll have that for another one, because I'm very interested in talking about how if custom kernels are something that people want to kind of deal with, or if it's just too niche or something like that. So definitely something we could talk about in another lug, because I think that would be a good conversation. War Thunder, go ahead.
I was going to say, as a comment about gaming distros, I do mostly agree with what Beefy Joe said. The only instances where I disagree are things like SteamOS, because it's a purpose-built console operating system, and
agreed.
this is different.
Yeah, that's
that
totally
regard.
different.
But yeah, also the Steam Deck is a little special with the NVMe drive and whatnot, because yeah, this thing can get hot if I'm sitting here and I don't know, maybe I'm insane. I decide one day that I'm just going to play like Cyberpunk or something on it and I need help. Yeah, this is going to get really hot. But one of the cool things about it is, because of how Valve designed it, I can crank that TDP down. Like if I'm playing Dreamcast games or anything like that, I can crank this thing down to 3 watts and get 6 and 7 hours of battery life and configure that and whatnot. And that's the cool part. But also, kind of what led me to that point was with like putting an NVMe in a phone. Do we really need 7,000 megabytes per second in a phone? We probably don't. We probably need like what, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 megabytes per second. Like you'd have to judge that, but I'm sure you could get a slow enough drive in there that the heat wouldn't be as much of an issue.
Okay.
Though I can't say I can count on many hands how many times I've had an internal phone SSD die.
So at that speed, sorry, but at that speed, imagine this, because that speed would run you somewhat close to what phone memory probably runs at. I don't know what phone memory actually runs at, but you could, in theory, at least push some of it, basically create yourself a swap drive on your NVMe, right? And then install Gen 2. I'm just saying, you can have as much RAM as you possibly want to. It's like the dream phone for Josh. Just put Gen 2 right on there.
He put Gen 2 on a smart plug, so I believe it.
I know. Crazy fool. Nate, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, liquid metalled win.
Never actually used it.
I'm just saying, if you really want to run cool, absolutely cool, liquid metalled win.
Isn't it the thing that you have to be really careful to apply? Because if you
if you
100%
put that
on the board,
conductive,
you have to code it and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, 100%.
I've got direct replies to that, but I can wait.
I don't think that I have a steady enough hand to ever do it on any hardware that I cared to, actually use. Des, go ahead.
In case it hasn't been mentioned yet, I definitely think Hannah Montana Linux and Justin Bieber Linux shouldn't exist, or Beaver, or whatever it is.
Yeah, those have been covered, but they deserve to be covered twice. Definitely true.
He's hurting my heart. BB and Linux, baby. BB and OS.
Drew, I'll tell you what. I will pay you $1,000 to run that for 6 months.
You yeah, I can't do it.
Hold on, Drew. He said run. He did not say daily drive.
No,
okay.
by
Just
run
has
I
to
meant
exist.
daily drive. So thank you for qualifying their lawyer War Thunder. Nerdgasm, go ahead.
Oh, brain split. Okay, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite RAM has a speed of 5,300 megahertz. Geez, liquid metal. Yes, liquid metal. I've used the Thermal Grizzly Conductonaut liquid metal on, I think about 4 different machines at this point. And I will say that it is moderately annoying to use, more so when you swap out or you take off the heatsink later. That is annoying to deal with, but it's not all that hard. But the Honeywell PTM 7950, believe I'm using the right number. I might not be. But that actually, in my personal testing, the computers I have swapped over from liquid metal to that, very close, very, very close. So I don't feel the need to use liquid metal on anything anymore. I can just use that Honeywell phase change material, and there we go. It's less dangerous and performs just about as well.
I'm just watching Drew troll the entire YouTube chat. Nate, go ahead.
I forgot I even had my hand raised. I done totally forgot what I was going to say. So go on.
Okay. Anybody have
Actually, I do remember.
Go ahead.
It just hit me. I believe that Temple OS needs to be replaced with Temple OS 2 written in Rust.
But Holy C.
But
you need Holy Rust. That's what you need. Like it won't really be Temple OS 2 unless you have a fork that's holy.
No,
gotta have Holy Rust.
The joke went the other way, Nerdgasm. Rust isn't holy enough, as in like there's not enough bugs there. Okay.
No, Rust is perfect. It is holy Rust because with Rust you have holes because it creates holes.
Okay. We're not gonna get into the real Rust thing tonight. We could, but we're not. All right. Anybody else have any last minute distros they want to throw out there before we wrap this thing up and drive it home? Going once, going twice. Oh, Nate, go ahead.
Don't install OpenSUSE.
I had a video editor once. He was an awesome guy. All right. Anyways, now that I've been thoroughly trolled, it's fine. That's it for this one, guys. So everyone who watched this live, thank you so very much for watching. We had like a peak of 110 people watching, so I think that's pretty damn good. If you want to join us, we do this twice a month, usually twice a month, unless there's something horrible like no internet in my house. In which case, I should just make Drew host. Because Debian's stable, and you don't need internet for Debian, right? That's the thing. That's the way that it works. Okay. All right. I've poked
the way it works.
I've poked Drew way too much tonight. It's fine. Anyways, we do this twice a month. The first one is the second Thursday of every month. That's at 11:15 a.m. Eastern time. Good Lord, I'm like totally backwards on everything today. And we do that on a URL that I'll share before every lug. So the best way to find that is to join the Discord server. That's where I share it first, but I also share it on Mastodon, and eventually I share it in the stream as well. The second lug is every fourth Thursday when there is one. There usually is one. And that is at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time as well. And you can, if you want to join the call and never say a word, you're free to do so. You don't have to have a fancy camera. You don't have to have a microphone at all. You can still join and pay attention, or we do stream it, so you can stream. You can watch the stream on youtube.com/linuxcast, and any way you want to do it, it works. Everybody can join. Nobody is kept from joining except for Nate, who is now banned. So there you go. Anyways, that's it for this one. Hope everyone had a wonderful time. We'll see y'all next time.